Hello everyone and welcome to the second installment of our series Decoding the NDPS. This is Advocate Arminder Kaur for Himalayan Hemp, and today I'm going to be taking you through the chapters of the NDPS for you to understand its structure a little better. It is also for our viewers to note that this analysis will be centered around cannabis. So what is the NDPS? The NDPS aims to substantially prohibit any individual from engaging in any unlicensed production, cultivation, possession, consumption, use, storage, manufacture, import, export of any narcotic drug or psychotropic substance. The objectives of this Act include taking measures for preventing, combating and regulating operations related to narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances. Secondly, forfeiture of property derived from or used in illicit traffic in narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances. And thirdly, implementation of provisions of international conventions on narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances. The NDPS comprises 6 chapters. The first chapter lays out all the important definitions that are used throughout this Act for terms such as cannabis, that includes charas and ganja, illicit traffic, small quantity, commercial quantity, medicinal cannabis, essential narcotic drugs, and so on. Another important section under this particular chapter is Section 3, which gives the central government the power to add to or omit from the list of psychotropic substances by way of notification in the official gazette. The second chapter highlights the powers vested in the central government to control the illicit trafficking of drugs and psychotropic substances. This chapter also highlights the relevant authorities and officers under the NDPS Act. Chapter 2A was inserted by the way of an amendment in the year 1989 to constitute a fund known as the National Fund for Control of Drug Abuse that was funded by public and government contributions along with the sales proceeds of the forfeited property used in or derived from illicit trafficking. The third chapter lays out for the prohibition, control and regulation of all the substances and any activities connected therewith. Section 8 under this chapter expressly prohibits the cultivation, consumption, possession, import, export, warehouse and use of any narcotic drug or psychotropic substance except for any medicinal or scientific purpose by way of a license or a permit authorizing and regulating such activities. Section 10, read with Section 8, enables and empowers the state government to issue licenses for the cultivation of cannabis for medical and scientific purposes. The involvement of cannabis in medicine has so far been limited to alternative medicine only, such as homeopathy and Ayurveda. Under Section 14, the government, by the way of a special order, may permit the cultivation of any cannabis plant for industrial and horticulture purposes only. The fourth chapter deals with the various offences and their subsequent punishments for the purpose of this Act. These offences are categorized as non-bailable criminal offences with stringent punishments. The punishment for offences related to cannabis or cannabis plants can be found under Section 20 of this Act. Unlicensed production, possession, cultivation, manufacture, sale, purchase, import, export, warehouse, use of cannabis can land you in jail with rigorous punishment. Apart from the nature of the offence and the facts and circumstances, the punishment imposed will largely depend on the quantity that is being involved. So in case of a small quantity, a person shall be punished with rigorous imprisonment up to a term extending 1 year, a fine that may extend to Rs 10,000 or both. In case of an intermediate quantity, the person shall be punished with rigorous imprisonment that may extend up to 10 years and a fine that may extend to rupees 1 lakh. And finally, in the case of a commercial quantity, which is regarded as the highest quantity, a person shall be punished with rigorous imprisonment which shall not be less than 10 years but which may extend to a term of 20 years. Additionally, the person is liable to pay a fine which may be not less than rupees 1 lakh but which may extend to rupees 2 lakhs. For a detailed list of substances and their respective quantities, you may refer to the notification dated July 16, 1996. Section 31 under this chapter provides for enhanced punishment for subsequent and repeated offences. However, Section 31A catches the attention on many humanitarian grounds as it lists out offences that result in death penalty. Needless to say, this section is applicable for hardened and repeated criminals or peddlers and drug traffickers that primarily deal with commercial quantities. One of the major drawbacks and a largely criticized aspect is that this act provides little to no understanding of the impacts of these drugs and categorizes them in an extremely constricted manner. The motive to impose stringent punishments is to deter drug peddlers and drug traffickers from committing such crimes. However, there is no way of ascertaining a demarcation between a hardened criminal and a victim. Also, however, Section 64A provides immunity from prosecution to addicts that are volunteering for treatment. Chapter 5 is one of the most important chapters of the NDPS but is also at the same time considered extremely rigid and technical. It lays out procedures for arrest, seizure of property without warrant, entry, search, issuance of warrant, duty of the officers and so on. Chapter 5A deals with the procedure of forfeiture of an illegally acquired property by an individual. The procedure includes the identification of such property, followed by its seizure and management, and finally a notice is sent to the offender and other such processes that follow. Lastly, but most importantly, Chapter 6 is a miscellaneous chapter with miscellaneous provisions. However, Section 71 particularly catches my attention because it provides for the government to establish rehabilitation centers for identification and treatment of addicts and also supply important narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances to these centers and hospitals all across the country. Unfortunately, one may say that these sections are only paper governance, as the ground reality paints a completely different picture. The plight and inaccessibility of government and public funded rehabilitation centers only go to prove that the NDPS is punitive in nature and not reformative. And that's it for today, guys. I hope you found this video informative. Leave down in the comments below and let us know what would you want us to cover in the next installment of Decoding the NDPS. Also, make sure to check out the previous installment that will be linked in the description below with all our socials. I acknowledge and understand that this video could be a little more technical to some of our viewers, but I also strongly believe that one must understand the act in order to assess its impact. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Until next time.